Ninjago's music, or at the very least most of it, is actually canon, and that may feel like a very weird cold open, but I really don't know how else to present this to you. Now, if you have just even watched Ninjago casually, you may acknowledge that this is actually the case, but it's not really a topic that has come up much over the course of the years. But I do think when you actually look a little further into it, you realise that there's a little bit of a story there, or more importantly, a theory towards it. And I want to discuss that today. I want to look over Ninjago's music, and more specifically, what if it is actually within the universe itself, and actually demonstrate where the origins of where the music has actually come from. Because I do think they actually showed us where, and I just kind of want to acknowledge it and see what you guys think about it. So let me not waste any more of your time, and let's talk about the canonicity of Ninjago's music. Now, there are two pieces of music in particular that have shown its head within the Ninjago universe, and is hard established to actually be something that does exist in the universe, and that is the Weekend Whip and also the main theme of Ninjago. They have both shown their head in some form or another, and you have to consider the fact that it does actually exist. I'm going to start off with when we first hear the main theme of Ninjago, because it is the one that coincides with my theory, and it does come from Season 2, when the ninja are remaking the bounty on the Lighthouse Island. Cole is sat there humming the theme himself, and he just remarks to the fact that it's catchy. There have probably been many other times we've heard it within the show, but this one is important to me, and you'll find out why in a bit. And then you have the Weekend Whip, and again, I'm going to demonstrate 3 times where we have heard it, because again, all of these are the ones that mainly matter when it does come to the Weekend Whip. The first one is in Season 1, when the ninja becomes Spin Harmony to win the Fangblade Cup. They actually use the chorus specifically and the theme to sing along and do a dance, and it's a really fun scene, I have to say, but it's the first time we actually hear it. The second time we hear it is in Season 8, when the ninja are actually celebrating the fact that they thought that they prevented Garmadon's resurrection and the Sons of Garmadon were in jail. They are sat there singing it at Laffy's. They're having a good time and they're just singing along to the lyrics. And we actually hear more of the lyrics in accordance this time round, because we actually hear some of the verses this time. And the last time I want to note is actually in Season 9, when the ninja are finally done, they're cleaning up the palace, we actually see them run out thinking that there's a new threat, and we actually see the Weekend Whip being played by a band who are presumably the Fold. And again, we hear them playing the song outright, and it's the background music that actually exists within the scene itself. So those are the 3 main instances of the Weekend Whip. Again, there are probably much more that I'm forgetting, but these are the ones, like I said, that do particularly matter. So we have all of these registered instances of the ninja actually having music that we also have within real life. And you may think it's just a fun little Easter egg, it's just a fun little reference. But if you know anything about the Weavy channel, I try my best to make everything make sense in accordance with the Ninjago timeline. And I think I do have a vague understanding on what's actually going on here. I think by all accounts we actually know where most of this music actually came from, because we somewhat see it within the show itself, and I think it's translated onto many more instances where we do see music, and also implications that more music may be canon than we actually realise. So let's actually get into my theory as to how all this music came to be within the Ninjago universe, and it does actually begin with the episode The Royal Blacksmiths. I do believe that is the very instance where all of this music did come to be, and it did stem from a certain bit of actions behind the scenes. When the ninja decided that they weren't going with what they were learning already and they decided to go something that was more akin to them, we see a scene where they all do spin jitsu, and then it just cuts them on stage, and that is where we see the music. Well, I believe that there was a conversation between these 2 scenes between the ninja and the in-universe version of the Fold. The ninja essentially would have asked the band to have created some sort of riff and some sort of lyrics in accordance with what their plan was. It's very clear that their plan was to be, well, a performance regarding spin jitsu. So they approached them and they requested a very simple tune to be able to go along with it. And that is the bare bones of the Weekend Whip itself. The ninja basically would have told the Fold how they do spin jitsu, and they would have created the chorus in accordance with it. It makes sense considering that we hear none of the actual verses, and that is how it came to be. Note how in the entirety of the scene it is just a very standard riff and that bit of lyrics, and honestly it does make sense that that would have been where it came from. It's a song based around the ninja, and the ninja weren't known in the land of Ninjago by this point, so it makes complete sense to assume that this was the origin point. So they went on beyond this concert, and the Fault had the foundation of a song that went really well with an audience, so that is where we see the expanded version of the Weekend Whip come to be, and that is how we actually see it later down the line in the 8th and the 9th season. The in-universe version of the Fold expanded on the song, maybe without the ninja's permission, but most likely with it. And that is how the Weekend Whip came to be, and I do think it actually does extend across all of the whips we've ever seen. Of course, we haven't seen any of them in the context of the show itself, but I do think you could actually coincide all of the whips with how we actually have gotten them. So not only is that my theory as to how the Weekend Whip came to be, I'm going to extend it into how all of the remixes also coincide with the show. I believe every single time the ninja defeated a new villain, the ninja actually had a new remix from the in-universe version of the Fold. And that is how all the incarnations came to be. And you may be wondering to yourself, well, certain things don't really make sense in accordance with it, because obviously the Pirate Whip exists. And I do believe that the in-universe version of the Fold came up with it, and then simply the events got reversed, so it doesn't actually exist anymore in universe. And I also think it makes sense as to why we only hear the original whip in season 8 and 9. If we take into the idea that every single time the ninja defeated a villain, the Fold made a new remix, it actually makes sense that we don't have one for the Oni trilogy. What if the Oni trilogy whip doesn't exist because the ninja lost? What if the Fold was never actually able to make a new version of the Weekend Whip because they lost, they were imprisoned, they had no ability to actually make a new song, and that is why a Oni Whip or Oni Weekend Whip does not exist. Does this explain any events beyond the point of Dragon's Rising? Not really, because We Rise is completely separate. You could go into the idea that another band started to do their own songs for the ninja, but honestly, that is another theory for another day. But I honestly believe that there's something behind this. I honestly think it makes sense if you consider that the Weekend Whip does exist in universe, and all of the versions also do, and that is why some of them are missing. I do find this really funny, and I would like to know what you think. And to coincide it with the other bit of music that I have said about, which is the main theme of Ninjago, and again, it can fit into this timeline. Say the Fold fully created a new version of the Weekend Whip, and that is the version that we get to hear. Cole is whistling in season 2, and his remark is, what? It's catchy. It's implying that the song is relatively new. So what if around about the point in time where the Fold made the new version of the whip, they also made another track to coincide with the ninja as well? What if they made this theme in accordance with the fact that they saved Ninjago City from the Great Devourer, and that is how that other piece of music actually came to be. And again, you could send it in even further into other soundtracks from Ninjago, but we've never heard them outright, so again, that is up for question. But I'm gonna be honest, I really like this idea, and it weirdly fits in the way that I've described it, and I honestly really like it because of it. And I like the idea that all of these whips do have a place within the universe of Ninjago, and why some of them are missing, why some of them may exist in other capacities, and why inherently the Weekend Whip has to exist in some form or shape. Honestly, I think I have figured out where it comes from, and that is why I want to know what you guys think of this theory. Because on an overall, it's a really silly little idea and it means absolutely nothing, and it's a little Ninjago meta joke, but honestly I do think there's a track to actually make it canon within the show itself and have it actually mean something as well within the show. I like the idea that there's a band going around making new whips in accordance with the heroes of the realm. Honestly, I like this concept and I wonder if you guys like it as well. And honestly, if there are any other pieces of Ninjago music that exist within Ninjago, I would love to know your opinion on how they could also come to be. I covered these two because they're, well, the main things, but if there are little tidbits as well, I would love to hear your opinion on it. But thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people and making my little silly theories for you guys to hear it. But if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could become a channel member and join the legends on screen. Thank you to each and every single one of you. My heart goes out to you because your support means the world to me. But again, that is about it for today, and thank you very much for watching. Take care. Okay,